When we look at the great conflicts across the Seven Plains, we expect to see certain metrics: clashing armies, broken steel, scorched earth left behind by devastating magical artillery. Yet the most devastating cosmic conflict on record featured zero casualties. There were no opposing armies, and in the end, there was only one combatant. This was the work of Veil. Following the Great Fracture, this entity, the Conscious Void, found itself in a precarious state. It was suddenly cursed with sentience, but completely stripped of physical form. To a mind with no body, the sudden explosion of matter creating the universe felt like a loud, cluttered, unnecessary interruption of the silence. At the time, the Seven Plains were sprawling and overflowing with new life. Veil looked at all this buzzing chaos and wanted only one thing: for it to stop. It had no interest in ruling the plains or conquering territory. It wanted to unhappen them, meticulously rolling back reality until the original silence was restored. Veil didn't hold a grievance against a specific faction or a rival god. Its enemy was the concept of existence itself. You don't fight a war against existence with swords. Veil turned its vast, indifferent intelligence toward the plains and simply began to withdraw its consent for them to be there. This diagram illustrates the mechanics of weaponized apathy. In the center, Veil's consciousness is tethered to the physical nodes of the plains. Because Veil is half of the original silence, reality requires its passive acknowledgement to stay structurally sound. If Veil actively withdraws its attention from a part of the web, reality begins to quit. The first symptoms appeared in Arden. Entire forests stopped existing. They didn't burn or wither. Travelers walked into valleys to find absolute absences where the trees used to be. In these blighted zones, you find a featureless hole in reality where the forest once stood. This is a total deletion of physical matter, leaving behind a geometric absence of space. This physical deletion was merely the baseline. The real danger started when Veil turned its apathy toward the abstract pillars holding the universe together. In the realm of Sorel, the attack shifted from matter to memory. Veil began to actively forget parts of the universe's history. When a consciousness of that magnitude refuses to acknowledge a historical truth, that truth loses its structural integrity and vanishes from time. This cosmic neglect trickled down to the living, creating a phenomenon known as the quiet rot. The universe was losing interest in its own continuation, and the living were catching the disease. Whole populations suddenly and inexplicably lost the ability to speak. The silence of Veil was leaking through their pores, stripping away their communication. The defense against this was frantic and completely asymmetrical. The entity Sura furiously hoarded data, trying to anchor reality through volume. The three seamstresses worked until their fingers bled light, sewing the frayed edges of existence. And a rogue entity named Orith stood at the edge of the seventh plane, calling out the names of erased things to see if they'd return. Despite these efforts, the math was against them. The localized vacuum of Veil's apathy was overpowering the defense. Reality was losing. Empty voids were spreading rapidly across all seven planes. Veil was nearing total victory. But Veil's plan contained a flaw. The spaces it meticulously erased didn't stay empty. The sudden absence of matter and memory created a massive cosmic vacuum. This is the Mouth, a dark, rapidly expanding entity born directly inside those pure white voids, gorging itself on the discarded fragments of reality. As the Mouth grew fat on erased histories and deleted matter, it began to speak continuously, babbling entirely in the language of things that were gone. Veil looked at this writhing, noisy mass and realized its mistake. If it successfully erased everything else, it would be left alone in the dark with the Mouth, an entity that never stops talking. Absolute silence proved impossible through destruction. Every new void Veil carved out served as an invitation for something much louder to rush in and fill the empty space. Facing an eternity of relentless conversation with its own failure, Veil retreated into the background,
shadows with no objects, and abandoned its active campaign of erasure. The universe survived, but it carries permanent scars. Today, there are still dead zones known as the Great Voids in the interstice and Arden, pockets of space where absolutely no sound, light, or matter can exist. And sometimes, out of the corner of your eye, you might catch a distinct, human-shaped shadow creeping across a wall, unattached to a person. These are orphaned shadows, the leftover silhouettes of things Vale managed to erase. Vale eventually retreated, having discovered that total nothingness is significantly noisier than the universe it tried to erase.